All right, guys, I think we have a historic storm forming in the Gulf. That's Milton, and it could be one of the most devastating hurricanes to impact the Tampa Bay, St. Pete area since 1921. Those words coming from the National Weather Service for the Tampa Bay area. And I'm telling you, all along the I-4 corridor, this could be a major problem. One of the most expensive hurricanes we've seen in a long time. Not what you like to see. There's still a lot of variation in some of the forecast models. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at the wave impact, the storm surge. Plus, there's some severe weather, too, in other areas. Maybe some tornadoes across parts of the Great Lakes from really New York, PA, down to Ohio, parts of West Virginia, into the Appalachians. And then we're going to look long range, too, because heading into next weekend, another shot of some cold air for the Northeast. So a lot to cover today. Let's start with Milton, though, right now. Again, this could be a devastating blow here into Florida. Look how eerie everything is. These are the ensemble plots. Everything saying this thing's going into Florida at this point. When you look at the ocean water temperatures too, you could see why there'll likely be some rapid intensification here. These ocean waters still above average. Surprising though too, right? Helene just moved through this area. Typically with a hurricane, you get that upwelling, and there's some research too that says some of that water actually deep in the ocean warms up too. I mean, obviously we do something with the heat, but that's another day, another story. But regardless, the surface where that heat energy is coming from is warm, above average, not what you want to see when you're bringing a hurricane in that's now forecast. I said it yesterday, and look, here you go. The National Hurricane Center putting out the major hurricane status. That could be a Cat 3 or up as this thing moves very close to Florida. Look at that line, that cone, all the way almost to the south tip of Florida, to the north tip, but the bullseye looks to be here. If anything, that forecast track may have shifted a little bit further to the south. That may be good for Tampa Bay. Don't get me wrong, it's still going to be bad. But if you are on the north side of this storm, you're going to have more of an offshore flow. So maybe all that storm surge won't feed up into Tampa Bay as bad. But look how early these winds could arrive. We're talking about maybe as early as Tuesday afternoon into Tuesday evening. These would be tropical storm force winds being felt along the coast of Florida. Let's time some of this out. As this thing moves into Wednesday, and the speed too, by the way, will be variable on this. I think that's the problem with these models. And look how tightly compact these winds are. This could really be a buzzsaw type storm that just blows up in intensity. My hope is that as this thing gets close to shore, it will start to feel the tug of that trough to the north. It'll start to rip it apart a little bit, which is going to happen. There also could be some dry air that starts to get entrained. That's not going to destroy the storm. Either way, it may be our glimmer of hope if there is a silver lining, I guess. As we move now, into Thursday, look at these wind gusts here, over 100 miles an hour in some areas, and then this thing moves really quickly across Florida. So by Thursday afternoon into Thursday evening, it's out here in the Atlantic. Now, speaking of the Atlantic, really, we're going to see some big surf here along the coast, regardless of where this goes. And it's going to lose its tropical characteristics. It's going to go extra tropical pretty quickly here. Maximum wave heights. This is an interesting model to look at. This would be the rare case, okay? But it's interesting to see that the models are showing 50-foot wave heights offshore as Milton gets close here. You can clearly see why storm surge is a concern. No matter where a hurricane comes ashore, you get that storm surge, that bulge of water that rises underneath the strong area of low pressure. And if this thing moves right here into Tampa Bay, you're bringing the storm surge in. You're pushing that wind in from the west-southwest almost, and that's just a recipe for disaster here. Hillsborough County, all along the Tampa Bay, St. Pete area. Not good. Something I'll be watching over the next couple of days closely. Severe weather on Sunday, possible here from really New York, and I think maybe even as far south as, I talked about it yesterday, West Virginia, a good chunk of West Virginia now under the marginal risk, with the highest risk for some strong storms here in Ohio, north into parts of New York, and I think that extends it even into Ontario too. This is the Storm Prediction Center outlook, so it doesn't go that far north. But the tornado risk looks greatest here from eastern Ohio, western PA. Not a huge tornado day, but still can't be ruled out. Let's time these storms out. And what I don't like to see is the rain that's falling across Florida pre-Milton. So we are saturating the ground up. We could see a foot of rain or more as the storm moves through, pending the track. And here come the storms, though, through the afternoon and evening hours, through the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. Some of these pushing into parts of Virginia, western North Carolina, and Tennessee, they'll start to fall apart. That's good news for those areas. And then here's your rain showers moving through the Northeast, kind of a wet commute early Monday for the I-95 corridor into the Northeast. Looks like the rain holds off at least until the late morning hours for Boston, and then we start to see that move out pretty quickly. Here's Milton in the Gulf. Here's that low to the north. This is going to be some cold air that's going to be moving into the northeast behind that. Our front now pushing off the east coast. Cool Canadian high pressure building in, and temperatures will be on the way down. There could even be a few high elevation snow showers here into the northeast with this cold pool of air that's just sort of spinning here, bringing in that northwest flow. Here comes Milton across Florida. We've talked a lot about that. A big ridge here across the central United States. This ridge and this trough here in the east really is what's going to help drive Milton out pretty quickly. Now, when it came to Helene, it was different. We had an upper low back here. We had an upper high here forming a blocking pattern, and that just funneled the storm to the north. That's not the case with this storm. We've got a decent ridge here and then pretty fast flow here off the coast. So that's going to push the storm out really quickly. So it's going to be history as we head toward the weekend. And now we're looking ahead to our next storm, which will start to really be felt as we head into Saturday and Sunday across the west, maybe some snow here. And then look at this trough that starts to build into next week. Boy, that really could bring a shot of some cool air to the northeast and really into a lot of the east as we head into next week. And by the way, toward Thursday and Friday, we're going to look at temperatures in a moment. We could see some frost for some of you. The GFS trying to blow up another hurricane. This pattern that's set up with this trough here is something. And listen, don't get hung up here. Don't get excited. The GFS trying to bring another hurricane into the west coast of Florida. Okay, don't go with that. I mean, look, 12 hours ago, we didn't have a lot. We did have a hurricane, but it was trying to form. Really, I would almost say that's a tropical storm. But again, we're looking out now, 222 hours out. Something though, this pattern I think is something to keep an eye on. All right, temperatures on Sunday, hot really in some areas in the 90s. Here comes that push of cool air into the northeast. The hot weather really gets squelched down into the deep south. 60s, 70s here across parts of the Midwest. Back into the Great Lakes, though, high temperatures may struggle to get into the 50s. Some 40s really across the northern parts of New England. Very comfortable here across the Midwest. Also, really for most of the east outside of Milton. In fact, it's going to be kind of nice here. High pressure building in. Temperatures at night start to get cool, especially Thursday into Friday. Let me back that up a little bit. Look at these lows on Thursday. I think we start to see the potential for some frost in some of these areas, especially those sheltered valleys and those cooler areas. And then as we head into really the weekend, that kind of persists at least through Friday. Look how far this cool air pushes deep into the south, making you might get into the 40s maybe by Friday or Saturday. So big time chill, maybe all the way down to Valdosta. I don't know. You're definitely feeling that shot of cool air, very fall-like as we head into this weekend. And then look at this cold air. This is some chilly air here into the northeast trying to work in heading into next week. It's not going to cool off a lot here across the plain states. A lot of that cool air will just kind of bypass you like this. You can see that here, but comfortable though. 60s and 70s back here. Still hot across Texas with quite a bit of 90s. And that hot air trying to push back into Oklahoma as we move into Wednesday and Thursday. Thursday could be really hot. We're talking about close to 90 up into South Dakota, widespread 80s, 90s across Texas. The good news is, I guess it's good news. It's still hot though, but that sun angle is much lower. So if you think about it, the sun angle is more like early March right now. It may not feel as hot. At least that sun won't be beating down on you as hard, but still 90 degrees is 90 degrees. I don't care how you slice it. And it is hot across the Southwest. Today, we're going to be in the triple digits again. You almost have to go out. I'm going to let this thing roll. There's Monday. There's Tuesday. We start to see some relief here in the Central Valley. We're talking about upper 80s, lower 90s here. Still over 100 here across the desert Southwest. And then as we head into Wednesday, high temperatures, much cooler across the Northern Valley here. Upper 80s, maybe some mid 80s. And then finally, we start to see that breakdown, I think, as we head into next weekend. Cold, too, here in the Intermountain West with some snow possible over the next week or so into some of the higher elevations. So a lot going on for sure. I'll be keeping an eye on everything, guys, and I hope you'll come back, subscribe. Catch you next time. Peace.